Hi, everybody. I would like to make a couple of announcements. The first one is many of you have been asking about how you are going back to the airport. Please, the information will be available in the information desk outside and also in the reception. So there you can get the information on what time you have to be in the reception tomorrow or today or wherever you are leaving, and find the time when you have to be there. For transfer, exactly, for the transfer to the airport. The other thing that I wanted to say is that I have seen many nice posters, and we have a copy of the presentations, but we would like also to have a copy of the posters because they are very interesting. There are very nice contributions there. So if those of you who had a poster could either send it to us or provide a copy, that would be very nice, because we will put it in the website and it will be linked to the poster in the program. So if you are willing to do that, please do so. The other thing, it was probably mentioned on the first day that UNUSA is having a call for interest for orbital space flight payloads, Sierra Nevada, exactly. That was closing actually yesterday. This call has been extended for 2 more weeks. So those of you who were asking, well, I would like to contribute, but I got the information too late, the call is going to be open until the 15th of November. So just be aware. If you want to submit an answer to the call, please do so. You have time. And the last thing, KiboCube. The KiboCube program has now the announcement opportunity open. It's a program that is between JAXA and the office, which is providing launch opportunities for CubeSats for developing countries. So if you are interested, please check the UNUSA website. You will have all the information there. It's a very interesting program. That's all what I wanted to say. We will start the session in a couple of minutes. Thank you. One thing about the posters, because there was someone that approached me, and some of the files are going to be very large. If you try to send us a file that is over 10 megabytes, it will not work. So please put it in one of these websites used for file transfer, like Upload It or Google Drive or whatever, so we can access the link and download it. Because if you try to send us a file that is over 10 megabytes, it will not work, just for you to know. Yes, no. No. Okay, sorry for the waiting. We had some technical problems. So now we are about to start the session on the recommendations. The session is going to be structured very simply. It's first, Laurent is going to present some of the highlights that were captured by him on the first day as recommendations, and then we are going to go group by group. So the moderator and the rapporteurs will be reporting on the user group findings. So Laurent, floor is yours.
Yeah, and just in terms of procedure, please try to look at what we are putting on the screen. Try to remember or take notes of what you would like to comment on, because at the end of the presentations of the 3 working groups, then we will go back on each of those recommendations that you might want to add to or comment on or in any way. So it will be a discussion. Just try to remember where you want to intervene on what. We will have all the slides on the screen and we can switch back and forth as needed. Before I let the working groups present what they came up with, what you all came up with, I wanted to go through some highlights from the first day, from the keynote presentations, from the panel discussions, because I think those were also important. And these are actually points that we captured together with the director of the office on the first evening. So I'm just going to show you those bullet points. We don't need to discuss them now. You might probably see that some of these are the same as what you came up in the working group or similar. So just for information at this stage, and so that we capture everything. So some of the messages, some of the key points and recommendations we saw in the panel discussion, in the keynote presentations were these that you see on the screen. Obviously, the capacity building network ID under the Office for Outer Space Affairs auspices was a point that was made. Reinforcing the regional centers affiliated to the United Nations, perhaps creating new ones, was also another point. The links between the capacity building network ID and the network or the alliance of the regional centers, that was also highlighted. Joint publications between the office and the regional center that could be promoted or at least initiated. The regional centers are only covering 66 countries, as it was mentioned, and the capacity building network would be, of course, much broader, but include the regional centers as well. And another point was made that experts from the office could be helping with training in various regional centers to promote a global approach to space activities. E-learning courses was another point mentioned very often. UNUSA has a key role in assuring that all countries are involved, so that should be, in a way, that role should be maintained, encouraged, enforced as possible. The role of the museums has to be addressed under the umbrella of the capacity building for the 21st century, so look at a network of museums that might support other networks and capacity building in general, and awareness raising in terms of space activities. I think I saw that in some of the working group recommendations as well. UNUSA to inform new delegates, diplomats in Vienna or in other UN headquarters locations about the treaties, about the space debris mitigation efforts, long-term sustainability of outer space, and various such hot topics for us that might be not known to others. And this will also allow a better learning curve for newcomers in the whole space agenda and maybe new members of the committee and so on. The Alliance of the Regional Centers was again often mentioned, and it is important that it stays under the umbrella of the United Nations also as an alliance. That was more our view. And then that more attention should be paid to school children and to that level of education from the UN side as well. So that's the few key points that we captured. Again, I'm not inviting any discussion now. Just remember, if you have any addition or objection, we can discuss that at the end. So Jorge, back to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So I would like to invite the rapporteur and the chairman of the first working group to present their findings. You will have, every group will have 10 minutes, and I want to maximum, and I will to keep it strict, very strict. So please.
Okay. Yes, we are working group is looking on the space economy, and obviously talking about from one side what exists at the moment, but the way how we look on the space economy, we're always trying to see on how it will look in the future. And I would like to say thanks very much to all our members. We have so many great contributions, and the challenge was really to integrate and to summarize what we have so far. So yeah, I think that what we decide, we won't really come with a skeleton, and then we're trying to develop some recommendation out of this. So first is awareness, and this is really what a lot of comments come from that side, because I think that's a really key specifically to the space economy, to the space technologies that we need to promote that on all level of political leadership, we have a real awareness on that. Maybe we
awareness is the key. Actually, we have been mentioning that space is all-pervading, it is cross-cutting, it affects all spheres of development, if it is so important and if it is indispensable, it is also equally unavoidable that we create this awareness at all levels. So the political leaders of the government should be aware why it is so crucial, why it is so much cross-cutting, why it is affecting all aspects of development. And the topmost officials of the government should be equally aware, because they are the people who will be making resource allocation decisions, how much funds are going to be allocated for a particular activity. And at the same time, another very important sector of stakeholders, that is the taxpayers who are paying money for the governments to do all these things. So they have to be aware that this space is an all-pervading tool, indispensable tool in all spheres of development. Therefore, their governments will have to spend more energies on the funds in these directions.
Thank you. And I think that also what we would like to mention, we will definitely will not read it. You can read it on your own. But I think what we can see, it's importance of not only informing, but educating national governments. And the way it's about educating, and I think that's also important. So then we can go to the next one. Policy cohesion. I think that's also, we discussed this very much in details, because we can see that, I think that's important, that no member states will be left behind regardless of the current status of technological capacity. I think that's important to mention that. And I think we had a really good discussion in our group regarding this, and it was mostly, well, I feel it was accepted by Michelle.
Certainly, this has to be aligned with all other development-related policies of the respective national governments and also regional governments, and also perhaps certain cross-sectoral development policies that various governments might have. So therefore, this has to be very well enshrined in the policy agenda at the appropriate level of the national governments, and also as appropriate in the regional and the policies.
Thank you. And I think even we are in very strict time. But you know, if you don't like something, just stop us and ask our questions. Number 3 now. But you may not stop us.
Yeah, no, I would say that that we do at the end, when all the work goes up.
We are in your hands. Okay, I think we also specifically stress the importance of education. A lot of comments come from educational side. And even we are on the, let's say, not covering specifically academia side, that was always about triangle between academia, public sector, and industry. So I think that was really important that working group emphasized the importance of the implementing strategy on the national level and create a critical mass of human capital. That's what does not exist yet in many countries. And since technologies, space technology is changing very fast, it's not only about that we need to have a static education process. It's really that we have this as a process which is obviously supporting on the day-to-day basis.
Well, I think we came up with some specific points in that area. Of course, when it comes to education, one of the challenges that we have is creating the number of people needed. It's certainly about creating the critical mass of personnel that would be needed by the country in application of space technologies in various cross-sectoral fields. So this is something that we can't do by just having 25 people, 50 people in the country. And it is also not possible for the UN or other international platforms to support individual countries to create all the personnel that they would be requiring in order to put this in place. That's exactly why it is so crucial for the national governments to take this as a priority task and have sufficient educational programs, capacity building programs in their own national universities and other institutions to develop that minimum number of people, the critical mass that is necessary.
And obviously we mentioned few important elements within education. When we're talking about education, of course we are all respect classical education methods, but the new methods are coming. It's a lot of your presentation were specifically mentioned project-based learning, project-based education. So we added some advanced approaches, specifically human-centered design, which United Nations using in different agencies. So we are creating things, designing things for human for society benefits, and that's also applicable for space technologies.
This is something that can preferably added with space education. So
Exactly.
that's a very, they are matching very well. So that's why we have identified.
Yeah, it's existing UNICEF, it's existing university, or UNIDO, but we need this for space education as well. Next, please. Connectivity. I think that's what is, we would like address specifically to United Nations, because we can see, and we are working with different agencies, that we need more connectivity. And that's related to all levels of communications. And I think we are in really good position at the moment with the new IT technologies coming, with United Nations developing knowledge platform. We want specifically to stress this importance for space-related activities.
Well, actually, we mentioned almost everything under that area. We also, something that we probably might add is that it's also necessary to have some standard operating procedures and some guidelines enabling the exchange of information. It may be exchange of data,
yep,
and also data about data, metadata, and also the space-derived tools. And of course, our Russian colleague from Progress, he specifically mentioned about space-derived information, that is satellite remote sense data. So that's appearing here. So it's also, we went ahead to encourage interoperability, to address interoperability issues in this exercise.
Exactly, and there was more and more satellite communication with more developing nations of establishing a capacity. We need to come with interoperability issues, and we need to be ready for that. Next one. Okay, that was the toughest part.
Will you please speed up? You have 2 minutes.
And yes, thank you. Partnership. We had a lot of discussion in our group, and obviously every country, they have some specific partnership elements, and some of them, they are recognizing private-public partnership. But what we want to stress that's, we can recommend this. At least we can recommend this as one of the models, I would suppose. And that can be other types of communication. NGOs, private NGOs are very active, and we obviously would like to stress finally that when we are talking about partnership, that we would like to find the way that a partnership will be on the mutual interest. And we had a discussion that even private entities, they're not always profit-oriented. Yes, they have some long perspective, but by end of the day, it's create more working places, and that's what space economy is about.
Certainly, partnerships are crucial, and when it comes to partnerships, it's equally crucial that we get the dynamism and autonomy of the flexibility in decision-making of the private sector when the governments are doing their part. Government is handling policy, and they are making major investments, then private sector can always join in the form of private-public partnerships in driving this effort. And we also, when we say partnerships, that's not only limited to that, partnerships involving other stakeholders, NGOs, and everybody.
Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Working Group 1 on space economy. I would like to call the rapporteur and the chairman on Working Group number 2, Space Society. Please. You have 10 minutes.
With that technology, I demand we are handicapped when we cannot work in those conditions. We need more exercise.
You can be creative.
I just wanted to say that you will do all the presenting and I will watch. So thank you very much. I hope you will contribute if I'm doing something wrong.
It's okay. The other two are working.
Well, we had quite some recommendations, and I would love to read them myself. I don't remember all of them by heart. Sorry. Yeah, I will. Yeah, it's working. It's fine. No, just so it's definitely working. Yeah, I will. Can we get the first? Okay. But this time it's not counted, right?
No, no stats.
Wow. That's conspiracy. That's working group 1. Thank you. So you feel competition right here, I see. So which side should I go? Right, okay, so I can start, right? But it's not, this time will not be counted, right? Yeah, so I just like to state that our group was, I'm proud to say that it was quite unique in the sense, okay, all of us are experts here, so many different interests, so many different groups, but our group had 37 participants in it. 37. That was quite a difficult task to work through it, to accumulate into account every single opinion. And thanks to our chairman, I think that was quite an efficient process, organized, and we were sitting in the circles and discussing all the potential joint topics of interest, such as food, colors, and other things like this. So by the end of the day, yesterday, that was quite solid and united group, and we managed to pop up with some nice recommendations by the end of today, this morning, and many of them. So if I manage to put them online, that's, well, on that side, good, so I can go to that side. Well, I thought that will be only one surprise this morning, that we had spoiler for our presentation, basically mentioning all our recommendations in Lauren's presentation. I think that was an unpleasant surprise, but we have some more surprises, right? Okay, well. So it is working group 1, I see. Well, I can start working upside down. That's also fine with me. Not a big deal if I get any pictures there. Well, I also have to mention that, of course, our group was, okay, it was a unique, quite big group of so many different experts with so many different opinions, quite hard to work through, quite unique approach, methods to dealing with them. Plus, I must say, a little bit of confession that we started working a little bit earlier as a group. Right? Not on only yesterday, but basically starting from Monday. So the results of that you might have seen with my presentation on Tuesday. I'm not going there before I see the picture. Oh, all good, it's coming. Right, so we started a little bit earlier to work on that and pop up with a bunch of recommendations. I had my own technology here, and Monday, no. Thanks for editing my presentation, but my title wasn't in red. It was in white. I'm going there. Okay, so do we have the slide remote control?
No, you are.
I'm doing in a conference. Okay. All right. So, right. Okay. But I expect our time, and I will even work in those situations. Anyway, as I said, I have my own technology, and I can start without even that complicated advances. We don't need that kind of technology to write. Yeah, so always have some backup option, right? So for the difficult, dark day, at home we always have something. So I also have something. And since we started working on Monday, if you remember, Monday evening, and I was actually, I don't know, somehow nominated back then as rapporteur. Don't be happy too early. Don't be happy too early. Okay. Yes? Are we sure? Are we certain? Good. So can I go back? Previous one? Okay, so that's the working group number 2, finally. 37 registered participants, plus a lot of other participants who were not registered. And topic of our working group was evolution of society and societal benefits stemming from space-related activities. And the topic selected, next slide, please. Next slide. Next slide. So that was space society. For those who don't know what space society is, here is a little of definition we've got. We also were studying it for a while, discussing different topics. Can I please ask, be ready to bring up a Microsoft Word file as well in a few slides. So, as I said, but next slide, please now. So we started working on our presentation and topic a little bit earlier, Space Society, how to get there, what to do for this, and next, click. So that's, as you remember, Monday morning, that's how we started our discussions. And I had quite few, as I said, I was nominated as rapporteur back then, and I have quite few interesting statements, like to increase university ratings, space-related, to recognize the role of small and medium enterprises, to pay attention to kids. Then it started to be more interesting. Let's be presidents, let's fly to another planet, go and watch the geostorm coming from Lauren personally. And then let's get rid of all the lawyers. I don't know who was this. This wasn't lawyer. This wasn't definitely Laurent. Well, Jimmy, acha, better manners, better fish. Well, we had quite a difficult and long day of working on that. Yes, I said, you've seen me on Tuesday morning talking. Next, but then we've got inspired yesterday, the day before yesterday. Thank you so much for organizers, and it was really lovely inspirational activity. And we jumped to our real work. Next slide. And we, as I said, we used different new methods. It was an elaborated process, how we were working. And finally, we jumped to our conclusions. But now, before that, can you please switch to Microsoft Word file? All 25 pages of me making notes on different... Wow, that was too much to ask, I presume. Okay, okay, not 25, I'm joking. It was only 7 pages of notes making different topics were discussed, what people think about space society, etc., etc., etc. And then I think we can already by now go back to the presentation. Yeah, so all those questions asked were asked. I don't want to go into all those potential topics discussed. As you can see, different issues mentioned. I just don't want to, I deliberately asked Lauren to bring it up just to recognize that all the ideas were captured, whatever from 37 registered participants were coming, and they will be passed to UNOSA and to everyone in charge. So they're not lost, right? So with all due respect to your opinions. But then we go through all those discussions, we jump to recommendations, and now we can go back to the presentation. Well, I guess as we were 37 of us registered, without me and Mr. Chair, we were, okay, can go that way. We also produced quite many different recommendations, actually a dozen to be complete. Can we just advance it? Because it's here. Advancing. Wow, that was seen already. Next. Yes, recommendations. Number 1. So in order to facilitate movement towards space society, as it was understood in that definition you've seen, we, as a group of experts related to science, decided to recommend UNOSA to take into account the following recommendations. First of all, to articulate the essential role of universities in facilitating the development of space society, and recognize the role of universities as hubs for cooperation among various society, economy sectors, and stakeholders of space society development. So that's quite essential, in our opinion, was for that. As well, it was many times already mentioned. I don't want to mention a few more things until some practical things will pop up. Here. Then, to coordinate high-level meeting among permanent observers. That was also one of the things which was mentioned during the plenary in the first day and later. To assist in further development with UNOSA, under UNOSA auspices of regional national network of university-based centers, both developing and promoting practical use of space technologies. Actually, that's another thing which was kind of articulated quite a few times during those couple of days of live discussions, that it's not only development matters, but also practical use, and showing benefits of practical use of space technologies to the entire world, and to policymakers in particular. Right, so I will stand here. I promise not to move anymore, because I think it's quite more convenient for me to stay here. Sorry. And regional centers idea, it was also quite several times articulated. It should be tailored to the needs of specific regions, based on specific cultural, economic, or linguistic features and characteristics, right? That's why regional centers, as it is now, it's quite good, but it would be great as a recommendation to suggest UNOSA to improve number of those centers and link it to specific needs, such as former Soviet Union countries, so specifically Eastern Europe, and it should be based on existing center of excellence, such as Samara State University. Please, next. To encourage and help centers in conducting regular in-service vocational professional training programs for policy and decision makers on latest achievements and potential benefits from practical applications of space technologies, summer schools, boot camps, etc., etc., etc. To recognize the need for development of university-based lifelong learning programs, including all the stages, primary, secondary, higher education, vocational, professional training, all the types, as well as distance learning programs. To initiate and lead establishment of Space UNOSA World Heritage programs. It was also articulated a few times, as you remember, our Footsteps on the Moon, or the existing network of museums of space activities, which is quite developed, and it would be great to use it for capacity building or raising public awareness, or just promote space education. Next, please. To lead development and adoption of space law diplomacy to lay the foundation for space cooperation. That's another point which was articulated and mentioned quite a few times. To encourage countries to develop and adopting national mechanisms and tools in assessing their progress in the development of space capabilities and the impact of this progress on their society and economy. While we are talking about so many different ways to help developing countries or developing own space agency, but it should be some way to monitor this activity, and it should be some way to assess its efficiency. To advise space-enabled countries to assist developing countries in benefiting from and utilization of space technologies. That's, again, as you've heard so many times was mentioned, with specific examples, specific practical examples. And we leave it to UNOSA to work on the proper language, to work on proper ways of formulating it, as suggesting some specific points or action items, such as establishing international educational centers linked or based at existing launching sites, such as Baikonur. We've heard all of this, and set up some student internships linked to it. Establish service as Global Center for Space Technology Knowledge Transfer to Developing Countries. Next, please. And finally, the last slide. To extend the focus of UNOSA meetings to include other currently neglected aspects of space technologies. That's a topic which was mentioned several times, failure of university nanosatellites, and why is it so, or what can be done to improve it. As we've heard, half of nanosatellites are not functioning. To initiate and lead global discussions and action plan on cleaning space from debris and prevent its accumulations. That was already mentioned from Laurent, I just skip it. And the last slide would be the last point, to make steps needed on informing all governments about the role of space technologies in achieving SDGs, and to include it to official documents to allow other stakeholders to use it, refer to it, and to use it in developing their own programs and their own national programs. Next slide would be thank you. And sorry for technical problems. And sorry for being here.
No. Thank you very much, Victor, for the unique presentation that you made on Space Society. I would like to call the rapporteur and the chairman of Working Group number 3 on space accessibility.
Maybe this screen is more lucky, I don't know. Some preliminaries. Our group was not that big, However, we were 11 at our best times, and we took into consideration all the offers, all the proposals, all the opinions of our participants. We have two basic preliminaries at our work. First of all, our activity, our space activity, is based on an outer space treaty. And according to this treaty, our space belongs to all nations, all people, all countries. And we also can say that future belongs to all of us, otherwise to nobody of us. So we should follow this treaty, and we should provide the situation where all the countries have accessibility to space technologies, to space education, and so on. It means that we have to provide all the conditions. In our group, we have a lot of people from developing countries, and we all know, we all heard here all the problems and ideas and dreams of the people in these developing countries. So we addressed them mainly. What is space accessibility? It is how to access space technologies mainly and how to use them. Next slide, please. We divided our recommendations into 3 main packs, and every pack of recommendation is targeted at some target group, at some audience threshold. So first group is targeted at children. Children, our next generation, these people will control our world in few decades. And it is very important to provide an opportunities for them to know more about space activity and to use space activity properly. So you can see here on our screens, we consider that it is necessary to provide more summer, winter schools at regional centers or universities or maybe other facilities. It is very interesting to have camping activities with some competitions. You know that children love competitions very much, so they will be definitely interested. We should provide for them visiting research centers, universities, industrial facilities, museum, launching facilities. For children, it is important not to have only theoretical lectures or whatever, but to see and to feel by their means what does it mean, space activity. We consider that it's very interesting and useful to provide competitions of various types, maybe distant competitions in modeling, essays, maybe even paintings, other creative arts, and so on. It is also very interesting, and it would be more interesting if we are able to provide some scholarships for winners. And last part of recommendation here is Goodwill Ambassadors. You know that United Nations have this practice of Goodwill Ambassadors in different areas. We consider that it is very interesting to have such Goodwill Ambassadors here. Astronauts, scientists, or whatever, or whoever. So we need to promote space, science, space technology, explain and show how it is useful and how it is interesting. Next slide, please. This second pack of recommendations targeted at students. Actually, we had the most tough discussion about whom we should treat as students. However, we decided to leave it as it is. Students are students. I think we all understand who are they. For students, especially for engineering students, it is very interesting and important, as we all heard here. Use practical trainings, practical experiments, and CubeSats are maybe the most interesting thing for that. So we offer to create maybe a network of ground stations and provide an opportunity for developing countries who are not able to create their own CubeSats or nanosatellites at least to work with existing nanosatellites, receiving data, processing data, etc. And it would be also very useful to provide such centers, educational institutions, by easy technologies, how to create their satellites, how to test main functions, and so on. We consider that it is necessary to establish global, regional maybe, but global is better, project on something challenging. Maybe on monitoring atmosphere, ionosphere, or whatever, to give an opportunity to participate in a global project. Maybe it could be a formation flight of several nanosatellites, several dozens of nanosatellites, or whatever. It is discussable. However, it could be a very good factor of promotion. Regional centers are very important, and we think that it is necessary to review the number of centers and to support centers, maybe making an accent on big communities. For example, here in Russia, we have that Center for Russian-speaking community, and it would be useful also for all republics of former Soviet Union. It is also very important to know the ethical aspect of space activity. So we offer to create maybe an educational program discussing legal and ethical issues, inviting philosophers, futurologists, and so on. It is very important to understand how we should use space in future, how we should avoid global challenges, global dangers, how to cooperate throughout the world to do it peacefully, and how to achieve the best results. It is also useful to create a dedicated informational resource for students, how to find an appropriate educational program. We have some comprehensive sites, but they are very comprehensive, and maybe it is better to have dedicated site on space activity. I mean, promoting universities and other centers providing this education in space activity. It is also useful to create a special program of this type for young women in developing countries, because in some countries for women it is much more difficult to get an access to such kind of education. I think it is necessary to actively support CBN, as it shows by participants, institutions, agencies, and organizations. And CBN itself should provide more support to training programs, about many of these programs we heard these days, so with summer schools, competition, and so on. I think it is more or less clear. Next slide, please. Third pack is dedicated to public, to community, to government. It is shorter. I think we need a program for developing countries, delivering knowledge and space technologies, improving quality of life. A lot of problems they have, and these programs should be solved, and it is necessary to use, important to use space technologies for that. So we can name that UN SPIDER as a well-established practice, and this practice should be used to analyze national situation for every certain country maybe. CBN should include an educational program for training educators. It will make our plans more smooth, more comprehensive, so it is useful to train trainers. And maybe, I think it would be very good if it is available, accessible, to encourage aerospace industry to invest into the programs concerning these space technologies. And next slide, please. I should leave some time for my reporter, so please.
And here it is written as recommendation 4, but actually it is somehow a conclusion that in order to implement all our recommendations, we need to somehow create a mechanism within a capacity building network that will monitor all these issues and will somehow control whether they are implemented or not and how are they implemented. So it should be some maybe organization or some dedicated person who will work on all these issues and follow them. So this is our idea proposed by our group. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Working group number 3 on space accessibility. So we have heard all the recommendations, all very good. Thank you very much to all of you who have participated and contributed to the discussions. It's very valuable for us. I'm going to summarize a little bit. It's a high-level summary, so I will skip some of the details you will not see, just to stimulate the discussion in case you want to add something or to comment on something. I would like to add one extra recommendation myself. It's you are giving us a lot of work, which is very nice, and it's something that we really appreciate. But the recommendation that I would like to add is that we would need, in order to do most of the things that you are asking us to do, the necessary resources allocation. Otherwise, we cannot implement on top of the activities that we are doing. So we have heard recommendations on awareness. We have heard recommendations that are towards the capacity building network. It looks, from what I heard, that we are going in the right direction. We have to put more effort in education capacity building, youth and women. It has been mentioned the possibility of having kind of a catalog of the different opportunities for education that exist. That's embedded in one of the initiatives that we have, which is the one-stop shop, the Space Solution Compendium. It will be part of that, just for you to know. We heard also about capacity building the last mile to involve all the users to really raise capacity and that the capacity stays in the country. We have heard also about the importance of the regional centers and how to strengthen them, and the alliance of regional centers that we have heard about these days. We have also heard about making even a link with museums and World Heritage, just to spread and to raise awareness, because raising awareness is one of the topics, one of the hot topics that have been identified during the workshop. But we cannot be raising awareness and creating education opportunities if the policymakers are not involved. So we have heard also recommendations on the policy side to get also the policymakers more involved, and to have policy cohesion, policy coherence. And one of the proposals has been to have a meeting of observers of COP, was just that the high-level representatives of the observers can be part of the efforts that all these workshops are taking forward. We have heard also about public-private partnership a lot, and in particular we have heard about a triangular approach, developing and developed countries working together, the developed countries helping the developing countries in raising their capabilities and acquiring new skills and new abilities. And we have also heard a little bit about space debris. I mean, just for you to know, we have the space debris mitigation guidelines. That could be taken a step forward. I have been discussing with some of the participants why, I mean, you are just staying there and not talking about, for instance, orbit allocation for orbits are not the geo, things like that. And finally, everybody here in the room recalls the importance of the new generations, children and youth, to carry out the efforts in the years to come. So that's basically a high-level summary of what we have discussed. Please, now the floor is yours. In case you want to add something, to comment on something, you have the opportunity now or never. Thank you.
It's open. Thank you. I want to read something at the end of the workshop. In the frame of the capacity building network under UNOSA, I would communicate that with some groups from different countries, developing and emerging ones, I have submitted a common proposal for orbital mission by means of Dream Chaser spacecraft. The deadline was yesterday. Dr. Simonetta Di Pippo talked about this goal in the first day. We'd like to link this activity to this important workshop. Probably, without our interaction here, no proposal would have been submitted. For us, this is, for me and for other colleagues, a result of this workshop. We recommend to write this. Thank you very much for this big opportunity.
Thanks to you, also for the proposal. Thank you. Yeah. Can you be my assistant, please?
Thank you so much for workshop again at the final day. I want to point out some idea about working group 1, which was in the explanation there was a to increase the public-private partnership, including NGOs, non-profit governmental organizations, which is, I have in mind that there are some foundations, such as Ashoka Foundation, which is, maybe you someone know, it's related to social entrepreneurship, create a social impact in the non-profit way. So they have good network and resources. Maybe we can create some collaborations with strong foundations such as Ashoka that goes directly for social impact. So that was the idea. The second thing is I want to a little bit extend our awareness topic we discussed in group 2 as group 2 to create awareness of the SDGs, and UN or UNOSA can send official letter or official information to the member states. That way the government of the member states take into account and spread out the word with media, so it could be some official impact. Therefore the countries can choose some targets in the 17 Sustainable Development Goals specifically and inform the UN to how they will contribute. So it could be some awareness line that I want to share. So thank you.
Maybe before, because I see already hands up, I can stay here on this side with the microphone, so there's a microphone there. But you mentioned the Dream Chaser mission, I think, Loredana, and then I don't know if you announced it already, but there is an extension to that, right? So you did mention that.
I mentioned it, yeah.
Yeah, so we have another 2 weeks to, you have another 2 weeks. And this, actually, just as I was listening, something popped in my head, and so I have to say it now, you know. It might be a bit far-fetched as Julie's presentation, but it's her presentation that kind of prompted me to think of this. Well, you know, we might not have an Eastern European Space Organization in the next 2-3 years. I said 20, maybe. But what if there could be some kind of regional cooperation in proposing projects for the Dream Chaser mission? That some country takes a lead in a region, Eastern Europe, to come up with a proposal including 3, 4, 5 countries and then submit such. Right now it has to be a concept only. A few paragraphs really, filling in a form. So you can at least think about it, make a proposal, and then maybe this is very feasible and it could be the start of some, you know, more strong cooperation. Just an idea. Really popped in now, so, you know. Okay, other questions? I think there were hands up there, yeah? You go there, I stay here. Go
there. There are 6 to 7 regional centers so far. And my proposal is if the regionals, under the regional centers, you have some sub-centers, you can choose some of the member countries, 2 or 3 universities, who can also follow the curricula of the regional centers. Because I saw that each years from each countries, 1 or 2 government officials is going to join the courses in the regional centers. There are a lot of potential participants, then they can learn the space science, also the applications, remote sensing and GIS. Myself, I'm the alumni of the regional centers of India. I went there in 2000 and get the PGT from the remote sensing and GIS. This course can be disseminated in the member countries, other universities. So they can teach maybe some of the courses to their students. This way, these initiatives can be disseminated faster.
Do you refer to a course or to the curricula that the UN is applying in the different, well, the different regional centers are applying?
Some curricula or maybe some of the universities, faculties, you can recruit more university faculties for the regional centers. Also.
Okay. So this proposal goes in the direction, if I recall it correctly,
like it also in the line of the CBN.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. It goes in the direction of the CBN. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Just the very small things. So I noticed all the documents use the word center, the CENTER. But because I know that in all the UN document, just use the CENTRE. So I think we should keep the same. Use the center, CENTRE. Yeah? Clear, huh? Just these things. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Other hands up? That's your part, Jorge.
That's my part.
Yes.
I would like to thank UNOSA for your presence here. And as a participant from Samara University, I want this event to conduct maybe every year or every 2 years once, if it is possible. Thank you.
We would like it every 6 months, but it's not possible. But yeah, it's a good point. So noted. Other, yeah.
Maybe mine is a suggestion. Somebody has just talked about sub-regions, like in Africa, we may be having 2 centers, but you know there are some UN countries that don't even know about this. If we can get coordinators, say we have Northern Africa, we have Western Africa, we have Eastern Africa, we have Southern Africa, and we have from all these parts we have coordinators. Because I remember somebody from UN saying that you are very few as far as it's concerned. Get this information as in terms of awareness and be able to move around and tell you whatever is taking place. Thank you.
One comment on that. That's very, very interesting idea. Actually, if you want to frame it in the form of a recommendation, what would you like us to do?
Just let me give you the perspective of East Africa. A country like, say, Burundi is a member state. A country like South Sudan is a member state. But this is a dream when you talk about space. It's a dream. So if we had a coordinator in the side of East Africa and is able to give you information and the UN about what's going on, and he can easily reach the governments of maybe Burundi, or maybe Kenya, everyone. He feeds you with the information. I think you can easily, before 2030, I think you can easily be able to integrate them and also get the knowledge of space science. Thank you.
Okay, one more here.
Yeah, just for the example he gave, actually the center that takes care of the Anglophone in Africa, in my presentation, I suggested that regional organizations should be involved. That is, to be part of the governing board. Once the regional organizations are involved, it's easy to coordinate from there. So there's no need to have in each country. But in each country, we have what we call point of contact, and they are also governing board members.
Yeah, no, it's a good point, and I think your point is good too. You want all those countries to be more aware of the resources in the regional centers of what's possible. On the other hand, Gani's point is good, because if we involve the regional organizations more actively in these discussions, in this coordination, then they have the connections to each country, and then they can help us raise that awareness. So both points are good, noted.
Yeah, actually, the region, I mean, that's a step further, but regional centers can be acting as the focal point for the region. I mean, that could be a possibility.
One more moment that the launching of a space aircraft from the equatorial part is very, very effective, much more effective than from north or south part, namely equatorial part. And I know that Uganda is very close to equator, so we can use the rotation of the Earth.
Getting into geography here. There is a hand up there. I saw it first. Sorry, but we come next to you. Okay.
Уважаемые коллеги, я Красов Сергей, профессор международного права Самарского университета. Я хотел поблагодарить организаторов за то, что наш регион был выбран местом проведения этого уникального мероприятия. Студенты, которые здесь занимаются организацией, спросили, было бы здесь что-то по международному праву. Я сказал, все здесь было по праву. Как только мы говорим о сотрудничестве, о коммерческих запусках, о регулировании космической деятельности, все это право. Но в плане предложения я бы высказал следующую мысль о целесообразности введения в качестве учебного курса, может быть, факультативного, международного космического права и принципов деятельности в космическом пространстве. А в перспективе, конечно, это разработка универсального договора по космосу, который бы урегулировал целый ряд проблем, которые сегодня являются весьма актуальными и должны предопределить сотрудничество государств в области исследования космического пространства. Благодарю.
Thank you.
So I have been very...
Just, sorry, I have to say something on this.
You don't have to, but you will.
Yeah, well, I will. On space law, actually, that's a very good point, and it can be taken further of one of the recommendations that were stemming out of the workshop that we have in Graz, where they were encouraging us to develop more the space law curricula. So it's a very valid suggestion, and actually we already have it, but it's good to have it reinforced here. Thank you very much. Melania, sorry.
So I wanted to say that I have been very impressed and satisfied with the diverse backgrounds of the people that have attended here. But I wish there was also representation of other UN offices and other UN efforts that UNOSA could collaborate closer with. For example, there are other common goods that are just as close to us that suffer similar challenges and could benefit from some of the similar benefits of space technology. This past May at the UN headquarters was the 4th PrepCom for the High Seas Treaty. They are trying to create regulations and a set of rules for how to protect and how to work and how to take advantage of the resources that happen in the common goods of the high seas. And from the meetings that I have attended there, I see that a lot of people that are involved in that effort don't know about the technologies that could aid the resources that exist in terms of having to enforce the rules that they're trying to apply. So one of my recommendations would be if there can be closer links between offices at UN that can benefit from the same technologies that we all know about and that we all appreciate. Thank you.
It's a very good point, actually. I think it's a note to ourselves also, because to be honest, in some cases, in some workshops, conferences, we do inform every UN office in the country. I can take the example of Pakistan. We actually sent a note to every UN office in the country, come join us. You are in the capital, join us. None came, well, that's lack of interest on their side. But in other cases, we do not do that. So we are not consistent in informing other UN entities that we are having a workshop in this or that country, and we do not invite them consistently. So I think that's something we should take on and make it a rule for ourselves that at least we inform them. We won't force anyone. If they are not interested, sorry, but at least they should know that we do this. We assume that we have a public website and everybody knows, but that's not the case. Yeah. Okay. Other hands up? I mean, yeah.
A couple of suggestions. One is it would be convenient for all of us if you held a meeting with the people who license this technology in leading space countries, got them together and told them what we're thinking about doing as collaborators. The technology is highly controlled for the most part, but I think something needs to be created at the university level to allow us to work in a global sense. So that would be one ask that I would make of you. The second ask, and that's something I'm personally interested in, is I'm interested in seeing how we're all teaching the same material, something like orbital mechanics or structured design. If you guys could create a website where people could put up videos of how they teach, perhaps we could create a master video that covered the topics, the general topics of spacecraft design. So you could accelerate the process of doing that.
Okay, thanks. I think, already in January, the member states of the committee will have an opportunity to read this report with all the recommendations. So that's already, 2.5 months from now. Maybe they will all those leading spacefaring nations will have a chance to see what we are proposing or what we want to do, and hopefully they are positively reacting or supportive of it. But that's a good point, that we could be more proactive. Yeah.
Hello. One point, then I was a member of the group 1, and one point that we discussed was the importance of communication across hierarchies. And what we need to understand for all practical purposes, despite the good intentions of this community here, we talk about sustainable development goals, unless and until that information is passed to the ground, at the grassroots level, the local population, we're not going to achieve much success with that. At least in the case of India, the UN discussions happen or remain at the Permanent Commission, and it's not connected back to the populace. So with us ignoring 25% of the world's population, there is absolutely no chance of the SDGs, forget about the indicators, we achieving that. So I guess a strong recommendation should be made that the discussions or the debate or the information that is passed on forums like this gets communicated back effectively, promptly to the grassroots. That is very, very important. Thank you.
Yeah, and then I think here we need all your help, because our connections to the grassroots are not as strong maybe as we wish, because we don't have the armies to do that. But you all can help at that level by just pointing people to the website and to the links, to the report, to the presentations. That's already big help, so it's a good point.
Yeah, there was discussed in working group number 1 the creation of these networks, helping the countries to create these networks that goes from top to bottom, so the information can be widespread. I think that goes in the direction of that recommendation.
Thank you. Adding in his point, like the one way is to reaching this information to the grassroots level is the people, many people here, like they are working with the government, like, you know, being like me, so I'm working a part of government also, like, you know, being the university, but part of the government committees, so that this kind of information can be reached to the government people, as well as nowadays the government, they are very much involving these NGOs, non-governmental organizations. So the one way to convey this message to the grassroots level people is to convey to NGOs. So NGOs are the right persons. They will reach to the, you know, we can have international NGOs, so we can inform them, and so that will reach to the grassroots level people easily. Thank you.
Thanks. Send the microphone over, be my assistants. Thank you.
Yeah, my colleague here is pushing me to speak up. So I was just thinking if the regional centers have any way of putting up a fund, because from my experience from the ASEAN member states pay some kind of membership fund. I don't know if it would be possible among the centers so that it can be used for at least limited activities, because I had been hearing that UNOSA has very limited funds for holding activities like this. So I was just thinking maybe at the regional level they can at least use a common fund to support at least CBN activities.
As a recommendation, it's good, but if you ask the directors of the regional centers, they are already smiling here, left and right. Trust me, they have been trying hard, but if the member states are not even coming to the governing board meetings, it's harder to convince them to even put in funds. But yes, it's a good point, and we know the struggle. I think we can take it up as a recommendation for sure. Any other hands up? I mean, if you want, we can still put up on the screen one or the other slide with recommendations if you want to pick on any of those, because otherwise we just assume you all agree with everything.
Are you sure you want to play with the screen again?
Which one? You mean the first day? Yeah. Okay. We should take maybe another 10 minutes max, and so, yeah. It's up, right? At least here it is. It will come there too. It's just a delay. Yeah. Yeah. So a few seconds, it should be up there too. Here it is up. There's 2 slides there, so I don't know which one do you want to go into. First or second?
Now it's there.
Okay. That's the second. That's the first. Don't take this as a summary. This was just what we concluded after day 1. So it's in no means, by no means a summary of the other 3 working groups. It's just, you know, hints we picked up on day 1 from all the plenaries. And any points on that, Tony? Okay. Other questions? My sector was not too active. What's happening here? No other comments?
It's now or never. Well, next one, in the next workshop.
Yeah, I would say that we take it that if you have no comments or objections on all the slides that the working groups presented, that means you are in agreement. Do I see a few nods? Okay. There's a hand up there in the back. Jorge's sector.
My sector is very active.
They like you more than me.
Yeah, no objections. Thank you. No objections, but just one question to the authors of recommendations of the Group 1 on economics. Could we please get back to the slide with the recommendation number 4, I believe, with connectivity?
Group 1?
Yeah, Group 1. Yeah, Group 1. Yeah. The slide connectivity. Just could you please elaborate more on what you understand under the stronger governance?
It's up here immediately next, but you can work on this. In order to facilitate stronger governance, capacity
yes,
building.
because it's a kind of, you know, it sounds like it's kind of very general.
Yes, but that was actually the point. So we definitely would like to, obviously then we had a very much detailed explanation, but I think that's what about connectivity situation at the moment. Since we are coming with the, let's say, new opportunities to link together agencies, NGOs, and private sector. So that's yeah, that's how we can elaborate. If you don't like this word, we can obviously we can correct this.
Just yeah, maybe kind of another alternative wording like global. Well, just no. This is. I don't know, maybe not governance, maybe global governance of space activities or something like that, because governance, this is kind of, very general.
Well,
I
don't see
is it related only to capacity building, or is it related to what?
No, because the topic was a space economy.
Okay.
So that's why we are trying to, and when we're talking about space economy, it's not only about what we have at the moment, but how we can put this more elaboration for the connectivity for the future. So, but of course, if necessary, we can correct this. Obviously, there will be up to, our UN colleagues to correct it.
I mean, I think
So
I
this
agree
is
with
kinda comic,
I agree with you. It's maybe general in this context as it stands in this text. So we might say stronger governments as it refers to this domain, or as it refers to these networks, or something like that.
Yeah, is it because it's not that clear in this part of in this part of the text? Is it related only to capacity building, or the topic to this workshop, or to just all overall space activities, which is
We were the topic to the workshop because that was our point.
Yes, and also. Well, another comment is standard operating procedures. Yeah, the set of guidelines and standard operating procedures. Do they also relate to the topic of this workshop or to overall?
Yeah, well, there was suggestions coming from Progress colleagues, and that we need to take this in consideration. Specifically, we have one real example coming from engineers, and they were talking about space economy and the future developing of technology. We definitely need at least to show 1 or 2 case studies, and that was excellent example.
Yeah, and maybe one more comment, just maybe kind of suggestion for more accuracy of terminology, like, well, we're talking about private sector. Would it be fair to also mention space industry, because sometimes in some conditions, in some countries, space sector is represented not only by private sector, but also by government, by state enterprises like, well, Roscosmos, which is a state corporation. This is just a kind of.
Yeah, well, it's up to definitely if you
just
think that.
Would it be fair to state the industry?
I think we try not to divide and that. Yeah, please.
But the sincere, yeah.
Can we use?
Well, your point is
Sorry, just one second on terminology. Normally we use governmental and non-governmental actors.
Yeah.
That's the normal terminology we use.
Yes, this is just my comment on the text. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Jorge's comment clarifies your question number 3, query number 3, that's relating to space industry. So, I mean, if it's possible, if our colleagues from Secretariat agree, we can, of course, specifically mention industry. And as for the other 2 points, governance, of course, it's in the context of governance or space-related activities. Of course, if you like, we can make it governance and decision-making in the context of space-related activities. So that's one possibility. Yeah. And I think the other point on standard operating procedures was to facilitate seamless, flow of information, interaction between all parties. We have mentioned about lateral communication and also vertical communication. That could be intergovernmental, intragovernmental, across sectors, across different stakeholders. So that's why we have put it, we have kept it more generic. The idea is to have a larger framework, a framework, a network of networks, a major platform which would facilitate all these things.
Well, thank you for clarification. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, well, we are running out of time, so I don't think we should take more points. But again, if nobody had any objections, then we take it you agree on what you saw on the screen otherwise, plus the points you made in the discussion. And with that...
Yeah, those are taken. With that, we can close the session. Thank you very much for all your very valuable contributions. Thank you.
Thank you for that, and obviously this means that you will now look forward to the report, right? And now we have come to the last session, which is the closing ceremony, so I have to put up my jacket. Okay, I think we will start with some closing remarks. And then, of course, we will distribute the certificates of participation, because now I can confirm that everybody was actively taking part in the working group, so all of you will get the certificates. That's for sure, because I'm very happy, personally I'm very happy with the outcomes. I've led a lot of other workshops. This is one of the better ones in terms of contributions and outcomes and participation in the discussions. So, I start with the closing remarks on behalf of the Office for Outer Space Affairs. I can only say thank you very much to the hosts, to the local organizers for inviting us, for hosting us, for the fantastic hospitality, also for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for their contribution in getting everything done, host country agreement, everything worked out in the end. We really enjoyed our time. We really were inspired, as Victor said, yesterday evening. So again, thank you. Thank you, Professor Belokonov, Anton, all your team, please. I know they are not all here. They might be sitting outside. All the boys and girls who helped make this happen and helped with the pickup, the drivers, everybody that was involved in making sure we are here, we are safe. We even had our medical personnel coming and making sure we are all good. So thanks a lot for that. We really are happy. As one of you said, we should have these workshops more often. We wish we could, but we do it as often as member states invite us and as often as we have the resources for it. I would say your contributions will make a difference, will be important in us developing the report on this thematic priority related to capacity building in the 21st century. And also, of course, the report of this workshop, when it's finalized, will become an official UN report that will be online at the United Nations, could be consulted, referred to in the future. So what we did here, the discussions, the outcomes are clearly important also for next year, for Unispace Plus 50, and in shaping that Space 2030 vision that our director has already introduced to you on the first day. So with that, I say thanks for coming, thanks for taking the time and investing your time in spending these 4 days with us. and hopefully you are also happy. I also would like to encourage you to be proactive. You met new people, you learned new things, new technologies. Do not expect us to be able to follow up with all of you individually. We are too few and too little for that. Be proactive, reach out to us, reach out to those other people you met. If we can do something, ask us, email us. We will not email you, but email us and ask. Even if we say no, or even if we say it's difficult, we will try to help. That's also the reason we have these workshops. And hopefully you had good experiences and you met new people and you heard interesting presentations. Thank you again. That's it on my side. Igor, please, you're next.
Dear colleagues and friends, on behalf of local organizing committee and Rector Shakhmatov, I would like to a lot of thanks for all for participation in this meeting. It was not simple for us to organize this meeting, but I not only hope but believe that it was useful and interesting meeting for you. And I think that after this meeting, maybe other following events which will give us new opportunity for established cooperation, and we will stay more strength in space activity. A lot of thanks. And I think that this our meeting not last. I think I look in future, and I believe that maybe next year we can to gather together in Samara too. And I would like to give opportunity for short remarks. The representative from Samara Rocket Space Center, like co-organizer of this event.
Спасибо большое за возможность. Хотел бы сказать, что наша встреча прошла очень вдохновляюще для меня лично и, думаю, для всей команды, которая присутствовала и участвовала от нашего ракетно-космического центра «Прогресс». Российская классическая литература учит, глядя на звезды, придерживать картуз свой. Это такая российская пословица. Но, видя, как работает Организация Объединенных Наций, я начал сомневаться в этих словах, которые значат то, что мечтать надо, несколько придерживая себя. Глядя, как работают представители самых разных стран сегодня и все 4 дня, я понял, что мечтать надо, не ограничивая себя и не ограничивая свои возможности. Ну, надо сказать все-таки еще несколько слов о Самаре и о наших организациях. Я бы хотел еще раз акцентировать внимание, что те направления, которые находятся в рамках нашей ответственности, это средства выведения, дистанционное зондирование Земли, аппараты для фундаментальных исследований. Я надеюсь, что все мы, все вы будем вместе над этими направлениями работать и будем все вместе участвовать по данным направлениям. И еще хотел бы подчеркнуть, что в Самаре сложилась такая хорошая ситуация, когда есть крупные промышленные центры, есть учебные центры, которые имеют возможность организовывать совместные учебные программы, практикоориентированные, которые дают синергетический эффект. Вот, это тоже очень важно. Ну и, соответственно, мы рады будем видеть вас всех на следующих мероприятиях, которые будут проходить в Самаре, начиная с чемпионата мира по футболу, ну и, конечно же, на научных мероприятиях, которые будут проходить у нас. Спасибо большое.
Thank you, Evgeny. I would like to invite Madame Yulia Gromyko. She is the representative of Foreign Affairs Russian Minister, and I would like before to thank her department and the head of her department, Mr. Barsegov, for help for us for organizing this meeting.
Well, thank you so much. Best regards from Georgi. I'm sure, well, most of you know him. He's sending all best wishes to all of you. Well, dear participants of this workshop, dear organizers, dear friends, my colleague, Miss Alla Vuchkovich, during our first dinner, said she has met new friends, and I agree with her. Dear friends, it is my pleasure to say such word to you. It's been a pleasure to meet you all in the beautiful city of Samara. Hope weather was not an obstacle for creating a warm and sincere the atmosphere of trust and friendship among us all. I do not want to miss anyone who participated in organizing and conducting this workshop. My sincere thanks to the Samara University, its professors, wonderful volunteers, students who have been working really hard to make our stay here comfortable and to make this event very productive and successful. We really believe that this event, this workshop, has been very, very successful, and it's been a great venue, a great opportunity for exchange of views, for exchanging opinions, and this is really good. This is a really good chance for us to get together, to see face to face, and to exchange views. Russian Federation has always attaches great importance to United Nations space applications programs, and we really would like to convey our sincere thanks to the United Nations Office for Outer Space Activities and all the agencies, all the Russian government agencies as well who participated in organizing this event. And also Roscosmos, RSC Progress, well, just really do not want to miss anyone. And what else? Of course, this event wouldn't have become success if participants wouldn't have come. And thank you so much, dear participants, for coming. Thank you for very interesting presentations, very informative, and these presentations, these reports have contributed a lot to success of this event. Well, thank you very much, and we would like to welcome you all and more participants, more guests from other countries to our future events in a similar format. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yulia. And now we would like to give certificate for participation in our event, and I would like to ask Storche to do.
Thank you very much. So now the time that Laurent has been announcing during all the workshop is a reality, and actually you can see a big pile of certificates here. So I will ask you, just for managing the whole thing, that you come on that way and you exit that way. So we don't have like a traffic jam here in the middle. So I would like to call Tabu Stephen David. Tanti Panwadai Sabat. Victor Taratukin. Thomas Yayachadran. Vasilev Veselin Konstantinov. is coming. Vučkovic Ala.
She is absent.
Absent. Okay. Wen Jingong. Segrad Admet. Romanov Alexei. Absent. Rezahi Vahid. Romero Alba Victor Nils. It's coming. Loredana Santo. César Roger Marie. Vladimir Sishev. Fernando Estancato. Olga Starinova. Absent. Stepanov Evgeny. Absent. Spodovarev Yuri. Absent. Suimenambayev Baghdad. Pichel René. Absent. Priya Darshna. I'm sorry. Priya Darnashanam. Rakisheva Tsaura. Mitriani Alexander. Absent. Lipatnikova Tatiana. Mohamed Nebiyu Suleiman. Absent. Nesterov Evgeny. Absent. Nor Salawati Binti Mod Nor. Owatara Frederick. Panawenage Preti Sanat. Thank you. Lutoshin Alexander. George Maeda. Maslov Mikhail. Absent. Matthew Tony Rajan. McGrath Michael. Mijovic Milan. Mijeva Elisabetta. No. Mir Makumudov Erkin. Abaje Ganiyu Ishola. Ashilevi Prosper Kofi. Asia Saed Cayo Avila. Argüelles Arredondo Carlos Gabriel. Thank you. Aliyev Akber. Alibayev Kwanish. Akbar Sabkat. Avariaskin Denis. Afonin Andrei. Absent. Bandeira Sasenko Korniyesuk Nadia. Bakara Ermi. Barulina Marina. Traffic jam. Bezbez Kamel. Bektemesov Maktagali. Borisov Alexander. Busagwe Babudi Torsia. Shang Shen Gao.
Thank you very much.
No. Sergei Chernikov. This sounds familiar. Irina Chernik. Kui Jisudo. Jisuo. Kui Jisuo. I'm not sure he was on the workshop. Lawrence Zaran.
Yeah. Why not? Why not?
You have to take this one also. Di Pippo Simonetta.
Yes.
Make sure it's on record.
Yes.
Dirkova Svetlana.
Dirkova Svetlana.
Emran Anas. Fedosev Alexander. Ganapati Patukandan Ganapati. Sengurov Boris. Sengurov Boris. No, absent. Gromiko Julia. Goodnov Vasily. Absent. Guerra Carrillo Melania. Haidari Jan Aka. Basianin Yaroslav. Hind Hassan El Khalifa Ta. Lansal Jevan. Lansal Jevan. Ivliev Alexander. Jose Yuli Sylvie Dominique. Kara Ozan. Kawashiba Rei. Konshin Sergei. Cosmo Deminyansky Evgeny. Sorry. Kudmani Marwan. Lagutov Victor. Islam Shahidul. That was the last one. Sorry for all of you who I have mispronounced your name. I'm really, really sorry for that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you have noticed Jorge pronounced all the Spanish names right, but you should have
I
practiced,
try.
with the others. Yeah, okay, good.
This is not the end, so we are waiting for all of you at 6 p.m. at the Say Hall for the final dinner. Welcome.
Thank you.